Look closely at your last major decision. Not the reason you gave someone else, the real reason. The one you didn't say out loud. Chances are, it wasn't the one you led with. Every single day, human beings perform thousands of actions, some small, some life-altering, and almost all of them come wrapped in a story we tell ourselves and others. We say we work late because we're dedicated. We say we bought the car because it's practical. We say we stayed in a relationship because we love them. But beneath nearly every action lies a motive we rarely name and almost never examine. This is the invisible architecture of human behavior, and understanding it may be the single most powerful tool for taking control of your life. Picture an iceberg. What you see above the waterline, the visible behavior, is only a fraction of what's actually there. Beneath the surface lies a massive structure of needs, fears, insecurities, and desires, quietly steering every choice you make. The tragedy is that most people spend their entire lives reacting to the tip of the iceberg, never once diving down to understand what's actually pushing them forward. So what lies beneath? Three forces, more than any others, shape the majority of human action. The first is the need for validation and belonging. Humans are wired for connection. For most of our evolutionary history, exclusion from the group meant death. That ancient wiring hasn't disappeared. It has simply changed its costume. Today, it shows up as the urge to check how many people liked your post, the anxiety before speaking up in a meeting, the quiet exhaustion of always being agreeable. It isn't weakness. It's biology dressed as personality. The second is fear disguised as ambition. Watch closely, and you'll notice that many of the most driven, high-achieving people are not running towards something. They're running from something. The relentless pursuit of success is often, underneath, an attempt to outrun a fear of failure, of being ordinary, of being forgotten. What looks like passion on the surface is sometimes panic in a well-tailored suit. The third is the pursuit of identity. Actions taken not because they serve a practical purpose, but because they prove something to ourselves. The extra hours at the gym, the luxury purchase, the overachieving at work. These aren't always about the outcome. They're about the story we're trying to write about who we are. Consider the person who works 80-hour weeks and calls it hustle. Peel back the layer, and you may find a childhood where worth was measured by achievement. Consider the person who can never say no, the people pleaser everyone relies on. Peel back that layer, and you may find a nervous system that once learned safety meant being needed. Consider the person chasing every symbol of success, the watch, the car, the title. Peel back that layer, and you'll often find someone still trying to answer a question nobody ever asked them directly. Am I enough? None of this is meant to diminish these individuals. Quite the opposite. It's meant to humanize them. Because here is the truth that changes everything. These hidden motives are not character flaws. They are not weaknesses to be ashamed of. They are clues, signals, a map quietly pointing toward what we truly value, what we truly fear, and what we are truly trying to become. The question is not whether you have hidden motives. You do, and so does every person you've ever met. The question is whether you're willing to turn around and look at them directly, instead of letting them operate in the dark, silently steering your life from behind the curtain. Because the moment you see the iceberg beneath the surface, that is the moment you stop being driven and start being the one who drives. There's a strange moment that happens once you truly see your own hidden motives for the first time. It isn't shame. It isn't guilt. It's something closer to relief. The same relief you feel finding the source of a noise that's been rattling in the walls of your house for years. You finally know what it is. And now, for the first time, you can do something about it. This is where most people stop. They see the pattern, they nod in recognition, and then they go right back to living exactly as they did before, driven by the same invisible hand. But awareness without action is just an interesting fact about yourself. The real transformation begins the moment you stop asking, "Why did I do that?" and start asking a far more dangerous question. What do I want to be driving me instead? Here is the deeper truth most people never reach. You cannot delete a motive. You cannot simply switch off the need for validation, or erase the fear underneath ambition, or silence the hunger to prove your identity. These forces are wired into you as a human being, but you can redirect them. You can take the same raw energy that once made you desperate for approval and aim it instead toward mastery. You can take the same fear that once made you frantic and forge it into discipline. This is not about becoming a different person. It's about becoming the author of the person you already are. Think of it like a river. A river's power doesn't disappear when it's dammed and redirected. It's transformed into electricity that lights up an entire city. Your hidden motives are that same untamed current. Left unexamined, they'll carve whatever path is easiest, usually the path of least resistance, of comfort, of quiet self-sabotage. But directed with intention, that exact same force becomes the engine behind everything you've ever wanted to build. This is the shift from being reactive to being purposeful. A reactive person chases approval without knowing it, avoids failure without naming it, performs identity without questioning it. A purposeful person does something entirely different. They pause, they look inward, and they ask, is this motive serving the life I actually want, or is it just an old survival instinct running the show? Try this right now, not as an exercise, but as a genuine act of self-respect. Think of one decision you're wrestling with today. Then ask yourself, honestly, am I choosing this because it aligns with who I want to become? Or am I choosing this because some quiet, unspoken fear is choosing it for me? That single question, asked consistently, is the difference between a life that happens to you and a life you deliberately build. This is what separates those who drift through their years from those who shape them. Not intelligence, not luck, not even talent. Self-awareness applied with courage. The willingness to sit with an uncomfortable truth about your own motives and to choose differently anyway. You were not born to be a passenger in your own mind, pulled along by needs you never chose and fears you never named. You were built for something more demanding and more rewarding than that. The ability to look inward, name what you find, and decide, on purpose, who you are going to be. So before this ends, sit with one final thought. Somewhere in your life right now, there is a decision you're making or avoiding, driven by a motive you haven't fully admitted to yourself. What is it really costing you to keep looking away from it?